My name's Brad. This happened last year when I was driving from Dallas to Albuquerque for a solo hiking trip. I left after work, so by the time I was out past Midland, it was close to 1 a.m. The highway was mostly empty. About 40 minutes into a long dark stretch, I noticed headlights behind me. That wasn't unusual, but they were closing the distance fast. Within seconds, a dark SUV was inches from my rear bumper. I moved into the right lane to let them pass. They didn't. I slowed down. They slowed down. I sped up. They sped up. That's when the anxiety started creeping in. Not panic, just that quiet realization that this wasn't random. The SUV pulled into the left lane like it was going to pass. Instead, it stayed perfectly beside me. The windows were tinted. I couldn't see anything inside. Then the passenger window lowered slightly. Something small hit my windshield and bounced off. It sounded metallic. I flinched. They dropped back behind me. Then they turned on their high beams. Not flashing. Just steady. Blinding. I couldn't see my mirrors clearly anymore. That's when I noticed something worse. There was another set of headlights farther back, following the SUV, keeping the same distance. I switched lanes abruptly. Both vehicles switched with me. My stomach dropped. This wasn't road rage. It felt coordinated. The SUV suddenly surged forward and cut in front of me. Then it slowed down hard, like they wanted me to rear-end them. I braked and kept distance. The vehicle behind me crept closer. Boxed in. That's when I called 911. The dispatcher stayed on the line as I explained where I was. I said out loud, "I'm being followed by 2 vehicles." The SUV must have realized I was on the phone. It accelerated suddenly. The car behind me slowed down. Then both vehicles took the next exit together and disappeared. I kept driving until I hit the next town. The officer I spoke to later said something I still think about. He said, when 2 cars work together like that, they're usually trying to isolate someone. If you'd stopped, they'd have surrounded you. He also told me something else. They didn't try to pass you. That means you weren't just in their way. You were the target. I don't drive long distances at night anymore. And I never assume headlights behind me are harmless. My name's Elena. 2 summers ago, I drove from Phoenix to Utah by myself to visit my sister. Around 11 p.m., I stopped at a small gas station just off the highway. It was quiet, just one other car parked near the store. As I started pumping gas, a man came out of the store and leaned against the wall near the entrance. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't smoking. He was just watching. I kept my head down. Halfway through pumping, he walked toward me. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just calm. "Long drive?" he asked. I nodded. Then he said my name. Elena. My entire body went cold. I asked how he knew that. He smiled and pointed to the back of my car. I had a small alumni decal with my first name printed under it. I'd completely forgotten about it. But the way he said it wasn't casual. It was careful. Like he'd practiced it before saying it. He stepped a little closer. "You're headed north," he said. "It gets empty out there." I told him my boyfriend was inside paying. He glanced toward the door. There was no one else in the store. He knew I was alone. The silence stretched. Then he said something that still makes my skin crawl. "You shouldn't advertise your name." Not threatening. Not angry. Just observational. I finished pumping and got into my car immediately. Locked the doors. As I pulled out, he stood perfectly still. Watching. In my mirror, I saw him get into the sedan that had been parked near the store. He waited about 10 seconds. Then followed me. On the highway, he stayed 4 car lengths behind. Not tailgating. Not flashing lights. Just steady. Like he didn't want to scare me, just stay close enough. I switched lanes. He switched. I took an exit suddenly. He took it too. That's when I called Highway Patrol. The dispatcher told me to drive toward the next town where an officer would meet me. For nearly 15 minutes, he stayed behind me. The entire time, I had this overwhelming feeling that he was testing something, testing whether I'd panic, whether I'd pull over, whether I'd try to confront him. Finally, I saw patrol lights ahead. The second he saw them, he slowed dramatically. Then turned off onto a dirt road without signaling. Just vanished into the dark. The officer told me they've seen this tactic before: create familiarity, reduce fear, then follow until the driver isolates themselves. He said something that stuck with me. When someone uses your name without permission, it's not about knowing you. It's about shrinking your space. I removed every sticker from my car the next day. I don't display my name anywhere now. And I don't stop at isolated gas stations after dark. My name's Marcus. I live in Texas, and last fall I drove from Fort Worth out toward El Paso to visit a friend. It was a straight, quiet stretch of highway west of Odessa, nothing but flat land and oil pumps for miles. Around 2 a.m., I saw a pickup truck parked on the shoulder ahead. Hazard lights on. A man standing beside it. As I got closer, he waved both arms overhead. I slowed slightly. But something felt wrong. He wasn't looking at passing traffic. He was staring directly at me. I decided not to stop. As I passed, I saw his truck look perfectly fine. No flat tire. No smoke. Nothing. In my rearview mirror, I saw him immediately get back into the truck. The hazards shut off, and he pulled onto the highway. Behind me. At first, he kept distance. Then he closed the gap, close enough that I couldn't see his headlights anymore, just glare. He flashed his lights repeatedly. Then honked. Like I'd done something wrong. I stayed steady. Didn't speed. Didn't brake. Then he pulled into the left lane. Instead of passing, he matched my speed exactly. His window rolled down. He gestured downward, pointing at my rear tire over and over, like he was warning me about something. For a split second, I almost pulled over. If I had a tire issue at that speed, it would have been dangerous. But something stopped me. I had just checked my tire pressure at the last gas stop. Everything was fine. I didn't react. He kept pointing. Then he suddenly sped up ahead of me, cut in front, and slowed down dramatically, trying to force me to stop behind him. Instead, I switched lanes and accelerated. He swerved behind me aggressively. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. Up ahead on the shoulder was another vehicle. Lights off. Parked in complete darkness. If I had pulled over when he pointed at my tire, I would have stopped right next to that second vehicle. The pickup driver must have realized I wasn't taking the bait, because he accelerated hard and passed me, then disappeared into the dark. I drove another 40 miles before stopping at a large, well-lit truck stop. I checked my tires. Perfectly fine. I told an employee what happened, and he didn't look surprised. He said, "Happens more than you think out here." What unsettles me most isn't that they tried. It's how simple it almost was. One hand gesture. One moment of doubt. And I would have pulled over in the middle of nowhere. I still take Texas highways. But I never pull over on a dark stretch unless I absolutely have to. And if someone signals there's something wrong with my car, I drive until I can see lights and cameras. Because sometimes the emergency isn't the emergency.